Hey, welcome back to the Midday Q&A. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with another exciting Midday Q&A. That's right, this is the opportunity that I take a little time aside to answer your guys' questions for anything that you've asked about my projects or anything that I've been working on or any of my videos that I put up in the past or things that I'm going to be doing in the near future. And one of the things we're going to discuss is Eleanore, right here behind me, my 1956 Beetle's engine in particular, and the carburetor problems that we've been having with it. I'm going to compare some of the options, and I've got a lot of options. So many different questions that are weighing heavy on my mind, and the answers to them all seem to be rather heavy on the credit card, if you understand where I'm going with that. Everything's going to cost me money somehow, and I don't mind spending money. I don't really mind spending money at all, and I've got the money for it. The only question is what's going to be the best way to spend the least amount of money to get the most amount of bang for the buck. So we're going to discuss a few of the options that I have today. Well, probably a lot more than a few of the options today, as well as answering a bunch of other questions that I've gotten over the last few days. So what you guys want to do is you want to ask your questions. Of course, click the likey button, and don't forget to subscribe. Pluck that little dingle bell you see down there next to the subscribe button. And if you have a comment, you want to leave one, hey, say thanks. Throw it down below. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you're from. Tell me about your project. I always want to hear. So go ahead and post them down below. Thanks for watching, you guys. We'll be back in just a second, right after this intro. You probably remember yesterday, during the last tech video, it was actually last night I uploaded it, that I mentioned we had an oil leak. And after I parked the thing in the garage and I discovered again this morning, it actually continued to leak. Now I don't know why it leaks when it's off, as opposed to when it's running, because when it ran yesterday it didn't leak at all, until I shut it off. When I ran it again it wouldn't leak, and then I shut it off and it leaks. So this is kind of a weird mystery. It looks like it's coming from a valve cover. I almost certainly expected it's a valve cover. I reached around and touched the pushrod tubes and my hands are dry. So I don't think there's any oil coming from that. So it's most likely the pushrod cover, but we're going to address that one coming up soon. It's one of the first things that I want to fix before I get to running this engine again. And actually it's something I need to fix damn near immediately because it's making a mess. So I can't have that one. That certainly needs to be fixed. But the big question on everybody's mind has to do with the carburetors. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about a couple other things. Remember I installed these J-tubes, and you remember all the problems that I had with the one here on the left-hand side not fitting with the CAFR bar and all that other nonsense that's down there. Well, up front here, I've been asked questions about how these are supposed to seal. And mine are probably a really good exception because they press together so tight that I didn't notice any leaks around it. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to vibrate a little bit and eventually open up some kind of leak. But how they intend you to seal these is either just leave them alone, which the slip fit seems to do pretty good for most people, or put in the stock donut. There's actually a gasket that fits around the pipe before you put the pipe together, and then you put a big clamp around it. It's supposed to hold it all together. But you notice there's not a flared flange on the J-tube to hold it all together, so those really don't work all that well on here. The second option is, and it's probably what I'm going to do, is I'm probably going to run a bead, a weld, all the way around that and just close it off. And you say, well, the exhaust clamps together this way on the engine. It's going to get hung up on the studs. And that's actually not entirely true. There's actually a lot of give to this exhaust pipe. It stretches quite a bit. So it's not too hard to open that sucker up when I put it on. I mean, it's probably a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I've handled those types of exhaust before, and you remember I actually demonstrated one of them going on this engine, how it wasn't going to fit with that CAFR bar because it was a completely different style and shape. But that one is one of the ones that you would have to stretch to fit on the engine. But we're not using that one, we're using this one. But yeah, I'm probably going to weld through that. And there is at least one more option. And I got these on a trade when I was actually cleaning out somebody's garage, and I thought it was actually a stack of gaskets. But they're actually exhaust flanges. This is for re-welding exhaust flanges onto your existing exhaust pipe. And these guys here, looks like they got a little damp and kind of welded themselves together. Well, you know what? No, they're not damp. It's just something... There we go. Only have one hand, that's probably the best way to do it. But these are exhaust flanges, and I could actually put one on the header, like this, and then one on the J-tube, like that. And then, of course, put in the stock exhaust flange gasket and clamp the whole thing together. That's probably the most elegant solution, I think, and I do have the parts to do it. I have another set of flanges also, so I could put them on the other side, but I don't know that I want to be bothered with that. That, to me, seems a little excessive. I don't think I'm going to be taking it apart that much that I need to worry about such a thing. So, yeah, I think we're just going to run a bead of weld around it and make it nice and simple, one pass, and be done with it. Well, everybody seems to love the sound of this engine, and I have to agree. Yeah, that glass pack really does this engine justice. It just sounds really good. It has a nice low rumble to it without any of the high-pitched popping sounds. It's very pleasant. And actually, Ruby runs the exact same exhaust glass pack, and I've demonstrated that running up and down the street a couple times. And, you know, overwhelmingly, people really do like the sound of this engine. And it did sound good while it was running, except for the fuel starvation problem. And that's going to be the answer to the next question. The next question is, what am I going to do as far as carburetors are concerned on here? Because these Weber carburetors that are on here have leaking issues. This one likes to gush down into the engine, and this one likes to pour out through the accelerator pump. Now, I've got a lot of options to weigh on this. Now, you do know, and I mentioned in one of the last videos, that my linkage is absolute crap. This is just all coming apart. I actually put a bungee cord on it to help hold it together, but this is actually a copper pipe. These brackets that are on here, these arms, are actually just clamped on. There's no teeth or splines or anything to stop them from sliding, so they're expected just to fit by friction and, you know, clamping forces. But being that this is a copper tube, copper's kind of soft, and I've already noticed that looking at these two arms on either side that they're already not even though they were before. So things are already messed up in here. You could even look down at the linkage here and you see it's bent. It's not straight in, it's all bent, wobbly, and it's just, yeah, it's a mess. So this linkage is going to go bye-bye too. So what I need essentially to use these carburetors is going to be a linkage set and 2 rebuild kits. Now, I've already priced all that. The rebuild kits are looking at about $30 a pop. I don't mess around. You know, I'm going to get the same linkage that I have over on the Type 3 because this is my keeper car. I'm not going to put junk on here. So the linkage is going to run about $230 from CB Performance. So if you add up the cost of the rebuild kits, you know, $60 a pop, $230 for the linkage set, you're looking at just under $300. Now, of course, I have to pay tax and shipping on anything that I buy on top of that. So we're looking at well over $300. Now, I could just go to CB Performance and buy a brand new set of Weber carburetors with the air cleaners, with the linkages, already set up and ready to go, with all the gaskets good, everything ready to rock and roll. Take this off, put that on for about $400. I mean, you do the math, it's only going to be a little bit cheaper to attempt to rebuild these things, and I don't know that I want to get into that. I really don't know that that's what I want to do, because this engine is not going to be permanent in Eleanore. It's just not. This engine is actually going to be pulled, and it's going to be replaced sometime in the future, probably in the next year or two, with a built-up engine. And I've told people that before. Some people have a little trouble understanding that, but this car is not going to be stock. I mean, the rest of it's not stock, so why should the engine be stock? I mean, it's already not stock. Dual carburetors and a merged header exhaust, you know, that's something Volkswagen never had on a Beetle. Just, they never had that on a Beetle. The upgraded engine will not make use of these Weber carburetors, so I don't see any reason I would want to put so much money into rebuilding these Weber carburetors, or even replacing them, because, you know, $400 is a sunk cost. This engine goes bye-bye. It's gonna maybe be used somewhere else, or maybe it'll get sold, maybe it'll go in another car, I don't know, but I don't want to sink that much money into it. So the other options that I have here are the dual single Delorto 36s that I mentioned to you before. Now, these need a good rebuild. I need to order a kit for that. I think the rebuild kit for that is about $40. It also needs an air cleaner. This actually used to have a sand kit on it, and this is only half of it. There's actually an air cleaner that's supposed to sit up on top of that. That's not there. The velocity stacks, however, are in there, and the carburetor does look like it's complete. And it's all there, so there's no reason I couldn't put the 36 onto this engine using this manifold. And yes, I do actually have the other pipe to it. I don't know where it's at, but there's actually a pipe that comes out this side. It's in a basket somewhere, so I do still have it, yes. And same with this one. I've got the pipe to that too, just the same. So I've got that option, 36. I've also got a Weber 40. Now that's a little big for this stock engine, but if I clean up and rebuild this thing, I can use it on my upgraded engine also just the same. So it might be a good idea to rebuild this one. Again, it'll be probably about $45 for a rebuild kit for this thing. And I can put it together. I've already got all the linkages to it. Carburetor seems to be complete, minus the velocity stacks that are on here, but I think the velocity stacks that are on the Delorto might actually fit on here. But it still needs an air cleaner, and it still needs an air cleaner lid and all that other stuff associated with that, so I still need to buy a bunch of stuff for this. So either this one or this one. I'm still looking at $100-something just to get everything together to make it work properly. And even then, still, when I get through it, all that work, just the same as if I invested the $300-something into rebuilding these, I don't know if they're going to be quite right. Okay, right here we have a stock, and this is a new old stock. This carburetor is actually a 34 pick 3, the correct carburetor that goes with a 1600 engine stock from Volkswagen. You can tell it's actually a brand new piece from, at least I believe it to be brand new. I mean, when I opened it up and looked inside of it, there was no evidence the fuel had ever been in it. The little screws didn't have any marks on them from a screwdriver until actually I opened it, and I'm a little sorry that I did that, because this thing, as a new old stock, is probably has a value on the Samba for like $400, and I still have the box that it came out of too, and that increases the value to a collector dramatically. Now, some people that want to rebuild their cars might want something like this, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a runner. You know, I got this thing in a trade out for a bunch of other stuff, so I don't have a lot of money in it. Stock carburetors are pretty easy to come by. Rebuild kits are cheap, but this one doesn't need anything. This is a direct bolt-on solution. But if I use that, these manifolds that are on here have to come off. I have to install a stock manifold. I have the end castings, but I can't seem to find my center manifold. The actual manifold that goes through the center with the little inlet that comes up on it, I haven't got one. But across town in Don's garage, the same place we have our tech sessions, I believe he has one. So I'm going to hit him up in a little while and see if he's got one of those, and it may be another option that we look at. Stock would just be really, really easy to put this engine back together. Drop those manifolds on, drop that carburetor on. They're very minor tuning because there's only, two screws you turn? There's the low-speed air and the low-speed fuel, and I think that's about it. There's really not much to them. And your throttle stop. Of course, there's that little screw that's right there. You can see it center of the screen. So, you can adjust that one too. But there's really not much to these things. They just work. They just work. And yes, Volkswagen Planet, I do understand stock is best. And in this case, to get this thing running and make sure that everything else on the engine works reliably, that's going to be the fastest, cheapest way to do it. I'll just go across town, pick up a manifold from Don. I'll put a 20 in his pocket or something. I don't know what he's actually going to want for it. I'll have to talk to him. But if he takes a $20 bill in his pocket, I'll be very happy with that. The last option that we've got, I have just boxes of these things. I probably have about 2 dozen of them. And most of them are brand new, just like this one is. I mean, you can see this thing is just absolutely spotless. And you're probably saying to yourself, what the hell is this thing? This is actually a Weber carburetor, and this is a Weber stock replacement for the Volkswagen carburetor. These are really, really nice too, really nice. And I probably am either going to start using these or start selling them off, just because I have so many of these things. I have to read instructions as to how to work with these things. I don't have that much knowledge on these, but I mean, this thing is just brand new and spotless. I mean, you can see even the little paint dots are on there. The seals have not been broken. The paint's never been cracked. It's got a choke on it, which is nice. Any of these other carburetor solutions, except for stock, none of them had choke except for this one. This carb also has, it's got a center stop in the throttle, essentially. When you pull down on it, you notice it'll stop right here. But if you continue to pull, it opens all the way. So when you're stepping on your gas pedal, you can actually feel it stop. So you can figure out where your fuel efficiency is going to be by not pushing it too far. Of course, wide open, you're going to suck a lot of fuel. But if you stop the first time you feel that notch, that notchiness that's in that throttle, you can quit right there and run fuel efficiently without opening up the throttle all the way. It's a nice little reminder that it's there. So it's got some really, really nice features on it. And I mean, it's complete. All the springs are here. All the adjustment screws are here. It doesn't appear to be missing anything at all. The idle on this thing is easiest to adjust out of both of these carburetors, because that's all it is just a screw right here. Real easy screw to adjust. Anyway, this is something... Actually, I'm sorry, the idle screw is down here. This is the choke screw. The proper idle's down there. This carb might be one to consider. I've never used one of these before, like I said, so it'd be great to experiment. But if I'm going to use it, I still need to use a stock intake manifold and the stock end castings. But before I get into that, I would make the proper stock carburetor work, make sure the engine runs correctly, make sure there's no vacuum leaks, yada, yada, yada. And then when I bolt this thing on, I can make my final adjustments. But the carburetor size, it looks to me like it's a 30 as opposed to the 34. And what that usually means is you might lose 1 horsepower, believe it or not, 1 horsepower at wide open at maximum RPM. And 1 horsepower isn't going to make that much of a difference to me, really, when you consider the fuel efficiency that you get from running a slightly smaller carburetor. You actually increase your miles per gallon considerably. Anyways, those are some of the ideas that I've got here as far as doing the carburetor stuff is concerned. I am going to talk to Don today about getting a stock intake manifold, the centerpiece, unless I could find my own. If I find my own, that'd be even better. But, yeah, I think that's what we might just do on here, is put everything back as far as the induction system to just stock. Change it back to stock, and stock works. So, why not? So I got asked a bunch of times, if this engine is now running and I get it running stable, am I going to be able to drive it immediately? And the answer is kind of yes, real close to yes. There's a few things still that I need to do, and one of the first things I need to do is make sure that my brakes work. Brakes are not done yet. I have to take them over to A-Bomb 79 and have him make some minor adjustments on it. I have to figure out what his schedule is, and I need to work around that. You know, I'm not going to expect me to be his primary anything. So I'll get them over to him sometime soon. In fact, I'll probably send him a message today and find out what his availability is in the next coming weeks and get that set up and make the adjustments on there. Get the brakes bled and finished once and for all. And the second thing I need to do, and it's kind of a minor issue, but it'll be its own tech video altogether, is how to replace the shifter shaft bushing. I need to pull the shifter shaft out of the tunnel, replace the bushings on it, and add a new shift coupler to the back where the transmission goes. Minor detail stuff, but it's still stuff that needs to be done. So I will get around to that sometime in the near future also, probably just the next coming weeks. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to drive it, you know, sometime soon. I'm looking up right now because guess what's in the forecast? I just felt that one of the drops hit me. As a matter of fact, yeah, look. You see them? Rain wasn't even in the forecast until tomorrow, and I'm already starting to get raindrops on this poor car. Every time she comes out of the garage. Not even in the forecast till tomorrow, still getting rained on. Frustrations, I tell you, these frustrations of these things. So, will it be driving? Soon. Yeah, soon, but just not yet. Not yet. Next few weeks, certainly before spring. I don't see any reason why we'd have to wait that long. But that would give her just enough, you know, go to get her up and down the street. Doesn't mean the lights are going to work. Doesn't mean I'm going to have glass in the car at all. It doesn't mean it's going to have paint. But yes, she could move and stop under her own power. Getting raindrops in the eye. So anyways, thanks for the questions, really. Those are really good ones. And the last question that I got, which is just kind of a fun and games thing, is how did I get rid of that big old palm tree that I cut down? I mean, the thing had to have been probably about 9 feet tall, and it was heavy. The thing was really heavy. I think it weighed probably, I would say, about 1,200 pounds. I mean, it was extremely heavy, maybe even a little more than that. That tree sat there for almost a month. The public trash disposal people would even touch it. It was probably just too heavy. I don't know if they tried. I wasn't home. I was at work at the time. And I mean, I took that tree down like 7-8 years ago. It's been quite a while now, a long time ago. In fact, that video is actually a really old video. I just figured I'd add it to the end for a little filler because I like to make my videos about 10 minutes in length. I took that orange chainsaw that you saw me do that video with a few weeks back where I didn't know if it was going to run or not. This was actually the first time that I used it where it came from a buddy of mine, the same guy that was helping me chop out the tree. And he says, can you get the saw running? And I got it running almost immediately, and I chopped up the tree with it while it was here. I cut it down into 3 pieces. And each one of the pieces was every bit as big as my garbage can that goes out. And the garbage can is big. They were too heavy to lift and too spiky, and I couldn't get my arms around them in such a way that I could actually lift them. So I ended up putting the garbage can on its side and slipped the piece into the can, and then leveraged the can back up onto its wheels and struggled to pull it to where the garbage man takes it. But trash man did take it. It took 3 weeks to get rid of it, you know, 1 piece at a time, and finally it was gone. And that's all there was to it. So thank you for the questions, you guys. I really do appreciate it. Remember, this is Midday Q&A. I try to do these videos just about every day. I usually put them up around lunchtime. For those of you that have anything you want to know, just ask away. Ask it in this video. Ask it on my tech videos. I'll address most of the questions. Can't do them all. I'm going to do my best to hit them, but sometimes it's just too many. But overwhelmingly, I do answer the ones that people do ask the most frequently. Of course, if your questions get answered in this video, then I'll use a link to answer the question to the next person that asks it. So thanks so much, you guys. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, pluck the dingle belly you see down there next to the subscribe button. If you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. And if you'd like to check us out on Facebook, Duckman Cycles and VW Garage, which now has over 600 members on it, and it's constantly growing. I keep having to go back there and actually approve of more and more members. I just can't believe how many of them are in there. So thanks, you guys, for watching. Really do appreciate it, and we'll be back tomorrow. Take care.